Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Building Big with Cities Skylines, episode 47. I'm Enigmas, and today we're continuing our experiment. We actually started it after the last episode ended. You can see we've set up a wee little tiny city up here. I had to give some thought to how I want to set this up, because I could have set it up in complete isolation relative to the rest of the city, and I realized that if I did that and it was successful, there would eventually be a time where we pretty much had to merge it with the rest of the city, and it would be like two tidal waves crashing together. The end result could be catastrophic. I was concerned. The other option is that I could provide limited connections between the two so that they can be a part of the ecosystem, so to speak, but still be far enough away that workers traveling here and there for this and that reason might be inclined to stay where we are in this area, as opposed to this guy living in this house here going to work way the hell over here. That was the thinking anyways. So what we've got basically is a very small city with a train area that's basically surrounded by commercial, because there was a lot of demand for commercial at one point in time, and then they didn't have anything to sell, so they've since become partially abandoned. But we've got the train, the cargo train, and the passenger train. Here's the cargo, here's the passenger, that are connecting us to the rest of the city so that we can share our industrial products. And already they're just out of workers. What a bunch of bastards. And we've got this great massive highway, which I'm quite proud of, because as you can see, it is frightfully straight. Just in a beautiful straight line all the way up here to our original highway. I mean, it's a long highway. It took quite a while to get this all set up and working the way that I wanted it to, but we've got it now. Very nice long straight highway. It would have been pretty easy to set up a highway like that, super straight, with snapping on and just go. But we had this interchange in the middle that's kind of skewed relative to the actual highway itself. So it took a little bit to set it up so that it worked not only straight relative to this one, but also lined up relative to this one going this way, because that interchange, as you can see, is kind of on angle. It's not perpendicular, it's a bit of an angle. So I was quite happy with the way that turned out. Now, on to this disaster. I just barely recently switched this over to farming industrial. Previously it was general industry, and I decided to see what would happen. We switched it over to farmer because we didn't have any farming going on anywhere else in the city, and I thought maybe that's kind of the problem, is that we need some farming stuff to make other things work. Now, as soon as everyone got set up, they were all abandoned. So we're kind of in a spot with that. The goal today is to be present when we switch over to 100,000 people. We need 152 in order to make that happen. The demand that we have right now is calling for industrial, which is going to be office space, because there's no point zoning more industrial, especially in this area, when this area here couldn't maintain staffing. Bunch of bastards. Why? I don't understand. After we reach 100,000 people, we've got some decisions to make. This is going to happen very quickly. I think it's going to be very sneaky when it rolls over. We have to stop and think about whether we want to continue with this city where the industrial and the workers and all these other things, all of the efforts that we've made to provide workers for our industrial areas have amounted to naught. Or do we start over and take what we learned and build a new city that's a little bit better laid out, that takes a little bit more consideration of the different industrial types and the zoning and things like that from the very beginning? It's a tough call. It's a tough call because, like I said in the last episode, we're so far along now, there's a limit to how much you would gain from starting over relative to just doing an overhaul in the city. At least if you did an overhaul in the city, you'd still have millions of dollars, you'd still have the tax base, you'd still have the population, you'd be working towards all these other things. Starting over would also give us an opportunity to get some of the punish the hell out of your citizens unique monuments, which could be kind of interesting. I don't know. If you have any thoughts on the idea, whether you have a preference of starting over or continuing with this city, feel free to leave them in the comments. I always read the comments. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to do what other people want to do, but someone might have an idea that I haven't thought of yet. And then it becomes like a little bit of miniature crowdsourcing people's opinions, taking into account things maybe that I hadn't. So there you go. Feel free to leave that in the comment section, and we won't know for sure till the next episode exactly what's going to happen. You can see we had a little bit of residential demand, so we put in some high density residential. All of this residential is high density. I realized there's no point putting low density in large numbers when you just need workers, because the high density is what's going to get you the most workers per landmass unit, whatever that is. The low density is good for help raising your population with new citizens, basically babies, but for just producing quantities of workers, I think the high density is where it's at. There should be a mix, I think, but I don't know what the perfect mix is. Oh, there's 100,000. And I bet you we're going to get nothing for it. I wonder if it has to stay over 100,000 in order to register. But I'm kind of thinking that even the way things are going, 100,000 isn't going to... Let's check it out. Milestones. 75,000. No, 75,000 is the last milestone. And we've got unique buildings and monuments. But at least we were here when we hit 100,000 people. And we're kind of dipping below it and then going back up above it a little bit. But we hit it. We've definitely hit 100,000 people. And now the main question remains, do we keep going? We're basically starting over up in this corner anyways, but we're bringing all the problems that we had with the old city with us. I have to be careful not to spin too quickly. The game gets upset. There's a lot of things that are going well in this city, and there's a lot of things that just aren't working. We've got commercial with nothing to sell. Everywhere we go, there's commercial with nothing to sell. It's demanding industrial, but when we zone industrial, there's not enough workers to do anything with it. Like I say, it could be that they're overeducated, it could be that they're too far from the jobs that they want, it could be that they've just decided they don't give a shit anymore. And now it's up to us to decide exactly what we want to do with it. So I mean, I could carry on here zoning this, but we're in Slowville. We're kind of watching things very carefully. Medium demand for industry or offices, which means we could extend some roads. We could put in some offices. Let's put in some offices. Let's see what happens. Just this little piece here. And we'll see what happens to the demand for industry or offices. We've got a convenient little U-turn thing going on here. I don't think that's going to buy us any brownie points with anyone. I think they're just going to say, what? What are you doing zoning that crap down there for? I did also set up bus loops throughout this little city. And these are very compact loops. Like one loop, nuts. One loop is like literally, you can see if I just hold the mouse over it, it's just around that one single block. And did that for all of the blocks, and then just did a single loop around in one direction and a single loop around in the other direction. And that's going to be, I think, the new standard for bus loops whenever I'm setting them up. Instead of doing like one great big serpentine loop that takes forever for the bus to get from this guy to this guy because he's got to go through all the other crap first. I think that's probably a good call. It'll take a little bit of reworking. If we do decide to rework the rest of the city instead of starting over, it's going to take a little bit of reworking in order to make that happen, but there's only so much you can do with what we've got. So, like I say, leave your comments and feedback. If you've got some ideas, if you've got some thoughts on what you would like to see, whether we keep the city, abandon it. If we keep it, we got to fix this. There's just no way we can have this carrying on from now till the end of time. And if you want to be notified when I add the next episode, if you haven't done so already, you can subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for that are in the information box below the video. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.